My next guest is a composer. He works in television. I've just picked a few out around him here. Silk, Dispatches, The Apprentice, of course, you'll know. He told me earlier that he wrote the music for Star Portraits, which I'm not allowed to mention because it was Paul Paris's TV experiment in 2004. We don't mention Gary Glitter anymore in rock.
I worked with Gary Glitter.
I knew you would have done. It's amazing.
I did a single. So, it doesn't matter.
I know, Haydn. It's true.
Jonathan King on this.
Yeah, Jonathan King made some great records, actually.
Gary Glitter, Ozzy Osbourne, and Frank Bruno. They were the three soloists. Can you imagine?
Not all of them have the same reputation in the media.
No, sorry.
However, enough of this. Please welcome Dru Masters.
That's a clean glass.
It's one of my better ones.
I was going to ask you about that. There must be, Dru, a number of people who look at you and go, "Oh, that's a great piece of music, mate." They kind of know that you do the music with The Apprentice, and they listen to that iconic theme music. And so it's you versus Prokofiev, really, isn't it?
I mean,
how many people know that it's a selection for production purposes and not?
I think it's probably 80%. And for the first few years that the program was on, people would come up and say to me, "I love that music, it's great," and I'd know what they meant, and my heart would sink. And for a while, I was very apologetic and sort of, explained. And then after a while, I got bored, and I just went, "Thank you very much."
Well, it's out of copyright, isn't it, now?
No, sadly,
not.
it will never be out of copyright in my lifetime. Prokofiev died in 1953, I think.
You bastard.
Someone could Google that if they want. I know.
I thought all classical music was up for grabs. Yeah, I read that.
You had to die, I think, before 1923, because aren't there some kind of
It's 70
copyright?
years now, isn't it?
It's 70
funny,
years,
yeah.
but it's also, after 1923, I think there was some change in publishing laws, which means that even people that have been dead more than 70 years, their stuff doesn't automatically become public domain.
Oh, okay.
I did have a very amusing conversation once with someone at Boozy's. You know, from Boozy's here?
Boozy and Hawks.
Yeah. When I rang them up when I was working with a string quartet called Bond, who did a lot of classical crossover stuff, and I was sort of basically going through the catalogue looking for candidates of tunes that we could do. And I remember calling them up, I think it was in 2009 or something, saying, "So Rachmaninoff, he died 70 years ago, roughly. Does that mean all his works are public domain now?" And they went, "Yes." Very handy. But unfortunately, Prokofiev, I think probably won't. I don't know who owns the copyright, but I think it will probably it'll just be retained for a while. Somebody might know more about this stuff.
But how do you balance the use of known clips with your own music in a typical show?
Well, I'd love to give you a really in-depth analysis of how I do that, but the reality is that as a composer on a TV show, you have almost no say whatsoever about what goes in the show. Interestingly, with the Prokofiev, that opening sequence, for a long time, they went around so many pieces of music, and I was going, "Guys, seriously, I wrote 8 different versions of that opening music before, and it became increasingly clear that they wanted something that was known." And for a long, long time, that whole opening sequence, as it stands now, it's been modified over the years, but as it stood on the first series, was cut to the Pet Shop Boys' "Let's Make Lots of Money." I kid you not. And can you imagine the impact of that show with that music? Because it
works, actually. No?
Stop. I mean, I don't mind the song, but I think it would have been such a different show with that at the start of it.
Yeah.
And actually, lots of people take credit for putting that Prokofiev in there. However, I do enjoy telling the story of how it actually got in there, which was I had it in my bag. And I brought it along to the edit because there was another piece of music in there which was a pastiche of it, and I brought it along to play to someone and say, "Hey, look, it's actually ripped off from Prokofiev." And I said, please, guys, please, just try something else. Try this. And we laid that piece of music back. It's a 1973, I think, recording with the Cleveland Orchestra, Lauren Marsell conducting. And they put it on to that exact thing that they cut to the Pet Shop Boys, and it just worked. And everyone went, "Oh, this is good." I actually didn't believe I still believe for a long time that they'd go back to the Pet Shop Boys.
But no, you won the day.
It did stay.
It absolutely works.
But in terms of the rest of the music, I get very little say. I mean, there's no music supervisor, so it's down to the editors and the directors on each edit, and there are 6 who work across 2 shows each. They do 12 shows between them. And they can be very partisan to me and call me up and ask me to score things, or they can just stick in anything they like under the BBC blanket agreement. And when they sell it abroad, someone else has to sort out the problem that they can't clear it. And it's incredibly frustrating as a composer, because what you want to do, one of the great things about working in drama now, which I'm doing more and more, and film, is that you're treated as a fundamental member of the team, and you get to score a sort of arc of a story, which is why most drama and film works really well and moves you and makes you feel something, because it's been at every point someone's actually thought about what it's doing. Whereas in factual TV, a lot of the time, sometimes it works, but a lot of the time people just chuck in any old thing, and it just sounds like someone's sicked up a jukebox. And
There are movies like that. The sort of jukebox movies where every sort of 10 minutes some massive rock and roll hit has to sort of carry the narrative along.
And of course it can work. I mean, Martin Scorsese was famous for always using needle drop sort of, records and songs. Tarantino's done all right.
Tarantino reinvented
it. Can work, and sometimes there's a really good argument for doing it. But unfortunately, in factual TV, I mean, every 5 seconds, nothing lasts more than 30 seconds. No track, maybe a minute, and they'll jump from composed music to library to something they used on another show. And there are times when is there anyone here from Audio Network? Slag them off. Hello. Audio Network have kind of cornered the market with quite aggressive sort of tactics of saying you can have the music for free and we'll just collect the royalties. And so all the production companies are very keen to use that stuff because it saves them a lot of money for the production. And they put the things in, and there are times when you can literally switch channels, Channel 4, BBC 2, maybe even ITV and BBC 1, and you'll hear the same tracks. It's extraordinary. There's a real lack of concern.
Do you compose to time frame? Your bits, especially?
Yeah, I mean, as much as I can, I compose to picture. It's I find it a lot easier. I find it's what inspires me. I mean, I started off writing songs and being in bands, and like a lot of people, I kind of ran out of things to write about. I did it when I was young, when I was angry and frustrated. And then I got a girlfriend, and then I didn't need to write.
Even more.
Now you're old, angry and frustrated.
Now I'm onto a wife, it's fine. Now I'm angry and frustrated. No, she's angry and frustrated.
But I was thinking, because it does seem a bit ad hoc, throw a bit of this there, a bit of there. But you have very specific moments where, especially the judging stage, you've got a lovely bit of
The Apprentice is actually a great show as a composer, because there are format points, as we call them, where there will always be my music, and I get to rewrite it quite a lot. I rewrite the opening every year, and I do a lot of scoring in the interviews episode, if you want to see the series in those episodes. They're the ones that tend to get scored the most, and I do a lot to picture, because they're the ones that sort of are the hardest to tell the story without some music. And that's what music's good for. And one of my pet hates on factual TV is that excuse me, choking, is that you that there seems to be a fear of silence, a fear of the action telling the story. And so what they do is they just fill it with noise, and there's a sort of sense of, if there's no music playing, someone's going to change channel. And actually, when music should be telling you something that you can't get from watching the picture.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
And in drama, it's easy. So in drama, you have two people having a conversation. One's telling the other one how much they love them, but well, you don't know, but you know from the music, that actually they're going to murder them or something. So you learn that because, you can't expect the actors to be able to act that. The way the actors work is they act the scene truthfully. So they say, I love you, everything's amazing. But the music's telling you something's really fundamentally wrong. Great use of music. That's why you need music. But a lot of the time, especially in Backfill, they just put, people getting something wrong, music going a bit wrong. Something really sad music. It's like, Jesus, I know.
You could watch
I'm watching
a long-form drama without the dialogue.
Absolutely, and that's the other
Watch
thing.
the actors, what they're doing, and listen to the music, and you'll probably get the whole story.
And the other thing is, of course, in Factual, is that they're constantly narrating over the top. So, sad scene, sad music, and someone saying, this is really sad, by the way. Just in case you're wondering about what's on the other side.
That's if it's really obvious, but also, I mean,
I'm never going to work.
You can give clues.
Hopefully.
You can give clues to, to what's happening next. But quickly, Tileyard, like Haydn, you're in a community.
It's an amazing place, Tileyard. I mean, I was the second person in. When we started it, I went down there, and Nick Keynes, who kind of runs it and decides, basically who's going to get a room and who isn't. He's done an amazing job of getting a really good mix of people. He met me there with Paul Kemp, who owns the place, and at the time, 4 years ago, it was full of taxi firms, sort of clothing sweatshops, a few sort of tea companies.
Sorry.
It wasn't opened as a creative.
It was a wasteland. I mean, it was it wasn't even the arse end of King's Cross. It was the arse end of, somewhere between Camden and King's Cross. And, we looked at it and I just thought, and Paul, the owner, just said, do you think if I build, he was going to build 10 studios at that time, do you think I can fill these? And I looked at him and I thought, well, it's going to grow this area. The centre of the regeneration was a long way down, sort of towards the station, but I still felt such a demand for studios. And so I sort of rather rashly went, oh yeah, definitely, yeah, build it, they will come. And
I think they will, because funny enough, he wrote to me, Nick wrote to me a few weeks ago. His standards have obviously dropped.
Yeah, clearly. What's going on?
And he asked if I'd be interested to come and have a look.
I think they're expanding all the time. I mean, when we went, there was me, Sam Sim, who invited me over, who's a fellow composer, and a couple of young producers, songwriters, and Nick and his sort of Gold Dust team, who are songwriter producers, and there were 10 of us, and it was pretty ropey the first 6 months or so, and then they started building more rooms and more and more, and now there's over 80 rooms, I think. And it's just a ridiculous number of rooms. Yeah. There are so many people there, but it's an incredible mix, and it's vibrant, it's exciting. There's lots of young bands there. There's lots of older, more established bands there. There's producers, there's engineers, there's studios. So like you were saying with Snap, there's Script, which is really nice little place. It's I think it's about 500 days, something like that. There's North 7, Simon over there, and
it's Mark Ronson as well.
Mark Ronson's there, and and things are tie-line through.
There are good people there as well.
There's some good people as well.
Sorry.
Mark Ronson seems very nice. I've only met him a couple of times. He seems very
charming,
nice. Charming young man.
Speaks highly of you.
But there's an analog mastering suite which set up by some amazing guy, Daryl Scheinman, who's hilarious. He basically, I think he made a lot of money in the city and was trying to work out how best to totally squander it away. So he thought, I'll set up a label reissuing rare 60s British jazz on vinyl in limited edition.
Niche.
Amazing. And he somehow makes a living out of this. He's got a completely analog mastering suite, and it's tie-lined into Mark Ronson's studio. So they have done quite a lot of direct-to-vinyl recordings there. And it's just lovely because it's all about what we were talking about earlier. We were all chatting. Music at the end of the day, it's a privilege to make music. It's a privilege to make music for a living, and to to actually work with real musicians, to just hear the sound of people playing in a space, stick a microphone in front of it, record that, capture that. That's what it's all about, and that's the exciting thing.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because before we bring on my final guest tonight, there is this balance to be struck today between what you've just described, which is capturing a moment of a human being or a few human beings playing instruments, and the technology that we use, so gratefully, most of the time, to generate the music as well. And you balance it with composing in a computer, really, and then translating that into a live environment with an orchestra or a musician
When
at some point. And I know that all of my guests tonight balance this act very carefully. So very quickly, Dru, you know, what happens to your music from the point when you've got a keyboard, you've got a bank full of samples, and you put it into the computer, and you know you can play it back to yourself. You know that's probably about the right idea. But then you've got to go and make musicians play it.
Well, actually, in a way, that's the easy bits. The hard bits is earlier, because what happens is that all of my clients expect to hear something mocked up to a level where they can't really tell that it's not real. And what that means is that you are always limited by what the sample libraries can do, and they're getting better and better. There's some amazing sample libraries out there, of which I've got pretty much all of them, because you have to. But they make you do things. So if you write on a piece of paper, I remember I was in Canada producing some female choral group. For some reason, I ended up finding a niche in producing female choral groups. I don't know why. I did one. I managed to get one record made, and for some reason they actually came back to me for more and more, because they're quite hard. If you've got a choral vocal group, then if you've done your vocal groups anyway, it's and I was trying to do. I wanted to get the sort of effect that John Williams gets at the beginning of Harry Potter with the strings, sort of where you've got the dun 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 on the Celeste, and then the strings come in and they go. And in my slightly naive way, which is a bit weird, seeing as I went to music school for 7 years and actually do know my stuff, I sort of wondered if he actually really wrote it out, or if he just sort of did some lines or something and sort of said C minor, And so I got a copy of the score sent over, and I opened it and I looked and I just thought, how would you write that? How would you go about writing that? Because on a computer, you just are not going to go. I mean, you might. I mean, I'm not going to go. I know the poor Celeste player had to play that, but it's incredibly fast. When you work with a big piece of paper and a pencil, you can do that, because you just go. And we did. It's a long way of saying I don't get the luxury to do that generally, because my clients want to hear it, and so. I use the samples, and the samples make you do a certain thing, because the shorts are certain length.
I've got to say...
Have you got a better library?
No, I haven't got a library at all. I've got to say, one of my biggest joys, if I work with a few arrangers on the stuff that I do, and they say, do you want to hear a demo? I say, no, I don't. What I want to do is be in the studio with the orchestra and hear it.
Yeah.
So what if you don't like it? So I will like it. And I do like it, because you've chosen the right arranger for the job, or the right composer to do something. Yeah. So, to me, that's such a great thrill. It's like being at the presence of something being born. Yeah. And it's a really wonderful feeling. I never understand how frustrating it must be.
Well, that's the thing. We have to work really fast.
I actually love the fact of being in the studio. You've got these amazing musicians, with incredible instruments. They've been playing their instruments since the age of 4. The sight reading is second to none in the world. Okay, well, it just sounds cool. Anyway, sorry.
That's fine. We will explore this theme of balancing musicians, whatever they play, and technology, machinery, with our third guest.